Well, the impact of gas prices and the cost of living is just one of the issues that has dominated the headlines this year, along with the war in Ukraine, of course, climate change, COVID, tensions with China and politics in this country as well. In various ways, all these stories connect. And our analysis editor, Ros Atkins, is with me for more on that. Ros.
Jane, thank you. Now, all of the issues that you mentioned there are, of course, important in their own right. But let's look at how this year's biggest stories connect with one another. And our starting point is the cost of living. This year, prices are going up sharply. This shows the rising level of inflation in the UK. And those increases connect to Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. That's because, as we've just been hearing, Russia exports gas across Europe. And as Faisal has just explained, that supply is more uncertain than ever. Faced with these doubts, prices are up. The war has affected food too. Ukraine's a major exporter of wheat. Wheat prices are up 25% since last year. But Russia isn't the only cause of the cost of living crisis. There's climate change too. At the moment, there's a drought in Europe. Droughts mean lower food production. Lower food production means higher prices. And as the UN notes, climate change is increasing the frequency of droughts. The war connects to climate change too, because the urgent need to get off Russian energy may see countries increase their use of other fossil fuels in the short term. In the long term, it may drive a faster shift to renewables, like wind power. And so, climate change, the war and the cost of living connect in different ways. COVID is connected too, because as lockdowns ended last year, increased demand pushed up energy and food costs. COVID also caused labour shortages, something that was exacerbated in the UK by Brexit. Now, these labour shortages drove up costs in many ways. One was disrupting the global supply chain. Now, that's the system that allows us to produce and buy goods from far and wide. For decades, it's helped keep prices down. But when COVID put it under pressure, production costs rose, so did prices. And COVID's disruption of the supply chain, well, that connects to another story, China's growing power, because more than 28% of the world's goods are now made in China. That's driven rapid economic growth, which requires more and more energy. Now, much of that energy China produces itself. Not all, though. And in June, Russia became China's top supplier of crude oil. And so China's growth, which in part rests on Western consumption, is now making it harder for the West to isolate Russia economically. There's more too, because Chinese growth is also funding its military. These are recent drills near the self-governing island of Taiwan, which China claims as its own. America condemned these drills, and so in their different ways, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are testing the West and the limits of its global influence. If we step back, at stake is the world order of the 21st century. Which is why whoever becomes Prime Minister next week knows that rising bills require an urgent response, and also that the cost of living crisis connects to fundamental questions about how we organise our world and how we treat our planet. Jane.
Ros, thank you. Ros Atkins. The Queen is to miss this year's Highland Games. That was announced earlier by Buckingham Palace. The Queen, who is 96, normally attends the Braemar gathering every year, but has been suffering from ongoing mobility issues. Prince Charles will attend the Games tomorrow.